2,000-year-old failed slave revolt is an unlikely subject for a Hollywood blockbuster, but that's exactly what we have with Spartacus. In 1960, Kirk Douglas and Stanley Kubrick got together with a bunch of snail-eating communists and told an epic tale of resistance, popular revolt, and tragedy in the late Roman Republic. It's the only film where Kubrick didn't have complete creative control. That leaves it a bit ragged in places, but there are so many stellar performances by seasoned actors like Peter Ustinov, Charles Laughton, and Laurence Olivier that it still entertains for all 3 hours. I'm not sure whether it's snails or oysters that are safe to eat, but I know we're good with the kind of sweet white wine that the Romans imbibed. So get a bottle of something schmaltzy. It's time for episode 22 of Toasting the Classics, Spartacus.
Welcome, everybody, to episode, I think it's 21.
This will be 22 as
22.
It's listed, yeah, because
okay.
we skipped a week last week. We were supposed to do Spartacus and didn't get it in. So
that's okay.
Yeah.
Because we're back. I'm Clint Lanier.
Dave McArthur.
And we are Toasting the Classics.
Toasting the Classics, the podcast where we take a classic, read it or watch it, or whatever you do to it, have a drink related to that classic, and then decide whether it's a classic.
Your own home, that classic, that's your own business.
That's right.
We don't ask questions.
As long as it's a transitive verb that you can do to the classic, then we're good.
Well, today we are exploring one of Dave's choices.
One of my choices, something I've never seen before. And last time I said it was about the Second Servile War. I'm sorry. I want to apologize before we get a flood of emails. It's the Third Servile War.
The film. I was going to say something.
Thank you for not embarrassing me and letting me look it up for myself.
Right.
It's the film Spartacus, Stanley Kubrick movie, 1960.
Right.
I've seen tons of Kubrick movies.
Closely based on real life. I mean, to the T, based on real life.
The more I read, I was watching it and they'd mention a character, I'd be like, wait, that guy'd been dead for like 50 years. What are they talking about?
Timeline doesn't quite work.
No, it doesn't work at all.
Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that later on. But
Dave is bleary-eyed right now, so I'm going to have to be gentle with him.
Yeah.
He just flew in from...
Is that a reference to the hot tub scene?
Well, we'll get to that. Oysters and snails.
Yeah,
but
oysters and snails.
But where'd you?
I think I like snails, but wait, which one is which? Non-metaphorically speaking.
Non-metaphorically speaking.
Definitely.
So, where did you come in from?
I just got in, if you can believe it. We were in Curacao yesterday.
Curacao. Right.
So we stayed in Miami Beach
which
last night.
Which is the main ingredient in a blue Hawaiian. Just so you know.
Wow. Brought home a bottle of blue Curacao.
Nice.
So it's very cheap there.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, I don't think it's really made there, is it?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. Blue Curacao is definitely a local product. We've had lots of cocktails with blue Curacao in it. So.
And you were there how long?
We were there about a week.
Okay.
For a wedding.
You live a much different life than I do. See, my family, my cousins,
I'm exhausted.
My cousins would be in some backwood.
Yeah.
Hatch. They might pay for our gas to go there.
Right.
Hatch, New Mexico, or something like that. Right. Which actually, has a great burgers, green chili there, stuff like that. But in any case,
got to give Sparky's a shout out.
In any case, not going to the Caribbean or Caribbean for that matter.
Caribbean, I say now, because I know a Jamaican guy lives here, and he's very pointedly was like, it's pronounced Caribbean.
It has an accent.
Caribbean, I was like, okay, Caribbean. I'm definitely.
We don't have an accent. Well, I guess to them.
We have an accent. Everybody has an accent.
So real quick, you're in Curacao.
Curacao, right?
Curacao. The last show that you and I taped, where were you for that one? You were.
Oh, I was in Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix. That's right.
Right.
And then the last show before that,
it's been an absolutely insane.
Washington,
D.C. I was in Virginia. Yeah. And
then before that, you just gotten back from Hawaii.
Gotten back from Hawaii. Yeah, right. That was the trip for my family for the summer. Was Hawaii.
So this is the life you guys want to lead. Okay.
Oh, I don't know.
Holding down the fort. He's jet setting.
Yeah.
He's actually wearing a white tux, which is really weird. It's a white tux.
It's kind of weird to come back wearing that. I look like Tom Hanks in Big.
Or Sean Connery.
Yeah. Sean Connery in
any of the movies where he's wearing the tuxedo.
Oh, he's wearing a white tux.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the States.
Right.
Stateside. Is it British Virgin Islands or
Netherlands Antilles?
Netherlands Antilles. Oh,
but weirdly enough, they still use the Dutch guilder.
Interesting.
Which I was like, I was expecting euros when I got there, but they have some sort of a tenuous relationship.
That's even better.
I think it's cool that they're using guilders. Yeah. Didn't get to see any, but You know, your electronic transactions are denominated in guilders.
Is that what they use in Princess Bride? Don't they say guilders?
That's the name of the country.
The country is
florin and guilder, which are both
true.
kinds of currency.
Currency, yeah. There's florins.
Florin, right?
And then yeah, interesting.
That's
Never
for
thought of
switches.
that. So did you have to use a passport? Just out of curiosity.
I did.
Okay.
I did have to use
All
a
right.
passport. All this COVID, bureaucracy and stuff like that. It was a nightmare. We missed our flight because of the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And we actually had to get flights. We had to pay for flights, even though the cousin had bought us flights.
She wouldn't.
They also
she wouldn't spring for.
Karina had to go last minute. Ended up in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So she joined us in Dallas. Had a ticket from El Paso all the way, right? So because she joined us in Dallas, they canceled her entire ticket.
Oh my gosh.
Because she didn't show up for the El Paso leg. I told them what was going on. They just canceled it out.
Oh my gosh.
Then they also changed our flight back to Aruba. They're like, you wouldn't mind flying back from Aruba? I'm like, yes, I would, because I'm not in Aruba. It's like a whole other island.
Right,
I have no idea how to get. But the resort,
show
but
right
when we got there, it was very nice.
Yeah.
Did a lot of snorkeling and things
Cool.
like that, and that was very pleasant.
Cool.
So.
I was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just went to Disney World.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel relaxed and like you've been on a big vacation for having gone to Disney World.
I've never stood
Plus,
in line.
it's cheap.
I've never
it's
stood
so
in line.
cheap.
Yes.
It's so enjoyable
It
for
is.
adults.
No, food is nothing there.
What a wonderful trip for a grown man
water,
to go on.
They give away water.
Oh,
bottles
do
of water.
Do they actually give away water?
Yeah, for $5 each. They give away bottles of water.
Right.
We could have had, actually, if we'd carried a cistern with us, we could have had all the water we wanted.
It rained.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I just flew over a Category 4 hurricane today.
You did.
Going from Miami to Dallas.
Man,
I noticed they were going by like Little Rock, so I think we actually did fly farther north than we otherwise would have. But
well, hearts go out to everybody in the coast right now.
Yeah,
the Gulf
this is the anniversary today. August
Yeah, isn't that
29th is the
crazy?
anniversary of
Absolutely
Katrina, which is
crazy.
definitely a day burned into my memory. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was there at the time.
Right.
So, well, actually, we got out of town. We evacuated, but I was living in New Orleans when that happened. And so I'm keeping an eye on what's going to happen with the storm because it's not the storm, although this storm is actually worse.
Yeah, that's
this
what
is
I've
a
heard.
Cat 4
Yeah.
as it hits the city from what they're
Katrina
saying.
was 3?
Katrina was a 1 by the time it hit land.
Was
by
it
the
really?
time it actually hit the
But
city.
it's just that the
So the city
levees
was not
failed,
damaged
huh?
terribly badly. I had friends that actually stayed in the Superdome. Woke up in the morning at 6 a.m. and asked the guards, they're like, hey, storm's cleared, can we go? And they were like, yeah, I guess so. If you have a car, sure. They let them drive out of the city, and the levee broke like 30 minutes later.
Jeez.
And that's when
Everything.
the fit hit the shan.
This is a tangent. We'll save this for the bar.
This is a tangent. This
sometime.
is not about the
Let's talk about
Second Servile War, Third Servile
Let's talk
War.
about
We don't know anything
shirtless,
about the
shirtless
first one.
men.
Yeah,
Very well
exactly.
built shirtless
Do you like movies
men.
about gladiators? Clint?
That's right.
Yeah. So
Did you ever wonder where that line came from, by the way, from Airplane?
is it related to something else? You mean just talking about?
Just talking about this.
In general,
did
yeah,
you
right,
ever wonder?
You know what's funny is I'd never seen Clueless.
Okay.
And I watched it last week, a week and a half ago.
Right.
And she's like hanging out with the guy, and he
Yeah.
brings over Spartacus with Tony Curtis and stuff. And I was like, oh, weird. I totally understand what they're talking about.
Right
That's
now,
funny.
yeah, that scene wasn't in the original release in 1960, though,
No,
was it?
no,
Right.
it wasn't. No.
So
And it was so much not in the release
Right.
that it had to be like redubbed.
yes, yeah.
And
Tony Curtis redubbed it,
And Laurence Olivier's dead.
and you know who redubbed it?
I do.
Who?
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins.
Sir Anthony
Sir Anthony
Hopkins.
because he does a great Sir Laurence Olivier.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was in the theater with him and did a great impression.
Yeah.
So I felt like I could hear it.
Could you?
I was kind of like listening for it, and I was thinking, am I hearing Anthony Hopkins' voice right now? Probably. It feels like I am, but I'm
I
probably
totally missed it because
psychosomatic,
I didn't read that detail in afterwards.
Yeah.
I try not to
Yeah.
read all that stuff until afterwards
I-
because it gives me a different perspective.
It
that way.
totally does. I read. I don't remember where I picked that up. It wasn't on purpose for the
Right.
research for this. It was something else that I'd seen.
So
about it.
should we do real quick? Should we do? You want to do a quick sum up of the movie?
Yeah,
just for
sure.
listeners that might not have heard,
So this is a Stanley Kubrick joint from 1960. It is the story of a slave named Spartacus who becomes a gladiator. Basically gets chosen because he looks like he'd be good at being a gladiator. Gets involved in an uprising. They escape. They fight a war against the Romans. This is in 73 BC. So it's the Roman Republic, not the Empire. There's all kinds of stuff wrong with the way that was depicted, but whatever. I actually kind of in general think they did a pretty good job. So there's several battles against the Romans. Some incompetent generals go against them because they don't respect the slave army. We see lots of wide pastiches of like your sort of, and I think this is because of the time, like very People's Army 60s revolution, like, oh, look at the people in arms and stuff like that. And then it all goes south for Spartacus. They are betrayed by the pirates that are supposed to rescue them with a fleet. Who saw that coming? Gave a whole bunch of treasure to pirates.
Pirates are usually very upstanding people.
You would think so. I mean, if you can't trust a pirate,
who you can trust,
especially a Cilician pirate,
a Cilician pirate wearing eyeliner. Looking a lot like Johnny Depp in a later movie.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's an interesting take. You think maybe there's a little bit of a connection there?
Between him and Keith Richards, I think.
Not to get off track from the synopsis, but there's a lot of films that I now understand way more having seen Spartacus now. I was like, this Braveheart's complete ripoff of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could talk about that later. Yeah. But anyway, so Spartacus gets captured. Everybody gets crucified. There's a famous sequence where nobody will rat him out for being Spartacus, which I'd like to talk about later because I don't know if I get that bit. Mm-hmm. And then, Spartacus is crucified on camera, which was also, I think, cut from the original version. He was dead when she saw him in the original version.
Okay.
They thought that was too much. The battle in the middle, there's really only the one big battle, right?
Yeah, that you see. I mean,
there's really the other things kind of off screen. There's some.
Well, I mean, so the one scene where the one where they sneak into the two Roman legions or from Rome, the garrison from Rome.
Glaubus or Glauculus or whatever.
When they defeat him,
he forgets to set up a stockade around his camp, which is a big no-no.
All they really show is them actually in the camp.
Right. Everything's already
on
fire.
Tearing
He's
them
captured.
into butthole, so.
Really, the only big battle is the one where Crassus shows up and gets all the Roman armies together, which is accurate.
Yes.
Crassus is the guy who defeated Spartacus, and it was a big deal. It actually ended up being how he became famous, how he ended up in the triumvirate with Caesar and oh my goodness, Pompey.
Mm-hmm. Pompey,
That's the synopsis, essentially. Okay. It's the history. There's lots of quibbles and details. Okay. Which are the best thing about the movie and the least historically accurate part of the movie. Is there's a lot of things.
Well, do we want to focus on the historic, the real historic stuff, or because the movie itself is a historic kind of thing,
supposedly? But there's a really big detail is that Gracchus is a big character, and Gracchus was murdered in I think 121 BC, the younger of the two Gracchi brothers, and he seems to be the character.
Yeah.
He seems to be the leader of the populares. He's the guy who's like in favor of giving land to the peasants and things like that. But he's kind of an interesting, just rewritten character. I really like that actor, Charles Lawton.
Yeah,
I thought he was great as Gracchus. I don't actually think Kirk Douglas sets the world on fire in this movie.
No, the critics didn't like him.
No, but Laurence Olivier as Crassus is awesome. Charles Lawton is great. The guy who plays Caesar is pretty good. He doesn't do a whole lot, but he's just like, he looks the part, I think, really well. Looks like somebody's going off to go conquer Gaul.
He didn't really do anything after this movie, though. I looked him
think
up.
So.
And I've never really seen him. Peter Ustinov.
Peter Ustinov is great. Yeah, that's right.
He won the Academy Award.
He's my other favorite guy. Did he win Best Actor?
Best Supporting. Yeah, Best Supporting Actor.
Right.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, totally.
And there's that one line. There's a line at the very beginning where they're in the rock quarry, and he's looking for new slaves to buy to become gladiators. And he has his carrier, and his carrier's got like an umbrella.
Yeah, the sun's over there.
Yeah, he says, "Oh, well, the sun is over there. It works when it's some little stupid throwaway line."
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
I liked him a lot.
I liked him a lot.
I think the casting was generally good. I didn't expect a member of KISS to be in it. Gene Simmons playing the love interest. That was a little joke.
God.
Come on, that was
good. Got it. I understand now. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas. There's an interesting part was all of the Romans were English, and all the gladiators were American.
Few exceptions.
Were American, with few exceptions.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons, he originally didn't want because she has a British accent.
Right. Yeah.
He wanted an American actress because basically the good guys are supposed to be American.
Which is the thing they used in Star Wars too.
Right.
All the rebels are American. So they got rid of that later on in the series, but in the original films they do the same thing because it makes them seem bad if they're British.
Well, British
it's just okay, whatever.
Accent, right? Except for Darth Vader. Yeah, so that's the movie directed, as I said, by Stanley Kubrick, which might be really shocking to a lot of people that he would.
His early stuff is pretty different, right? I mean, I've never seen Paths of Glory, which now that I've seen Spartacus, I think I might have seen just about everything except Paths of Glory and Eyes Wide Shut. Somehow never saw that.
I've never seen that either.
But this one does not have, at least to my untrained eye, the stamp.
Well, apparently this is the only movie he never had full control over.
Right.
And
exactly. I think that shows to me.
Bugged the heck out of him. Like he didn't have control of casting. He was brought on after the fact. There was another producer or director rather that was fired.
I can't remember his name, but yeah.
But he had directed another Kirk.
He did.
Douglas
and then
film.
Kirk Douglas felt so bad about firing the guy from this that he brought him back to do another picture with him later.
I think it was the Van Gogh movie. Is that what it was? A Lust for Life or something like that.
Could be. That vaguely sounds
I
correct.
think he did something like that. And then he was like the director for a week, and Douglas was like, "No, you're gone." Brought in Kubrick because he did the other movie with Kubrick.
Right.
Kubrick wanted more control. Douglas was the executive producer, so he's like, "No." He had say on pretty much everything. Douglas did, casting and so forth, which is quite a bit. 1960.
Yeah.
He'd done quite a few movies, but
he was a big actor.
He had a lot of juice.
He was in a whole bunch of those Disney adventure movies and stuff like that.
He was.
Can't think of what else though. He was in like the Vikings.
Oh, he was 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
10,000 Leagues.
That's all right. You don't have to go the whole way.
I don't even know.
You know what I realized when I was an adult about that? I was like, the sea's not that deep.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, they're driving that far into that.
Yeah, right.
That just completely threw me off. Could never figure that. I was like, did people not know how deep the ocean was back then? Like, is that the problem? But
there's so much to the making. I mean, there's so many backstories and inside stories. The fact that this basically broke the blacklist in Hollywood, the McCarthy era communist blacklist. Trumbo, is that the guy's name? No. Trumbo. The writer, originally was not going to be given credit. He was going to use a pseudonym or a pen name that he'd used before because he refused to give up refused to give up communists or whatever during the McCarthy trial. So they blacklisted him as a communist. So he kind of had to go incognito when he wrote. But Kirk Douglas said, no, let's give him credit. Gave him credit. And then between that and then JFK going to see the movie, broke the blacklist. It's like no more blacklist anymore. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw it. Went to go see it at DC.
Yeah, that's right.
I read it and it was like, it said President Kennedy went to see it.
Right.
I was like, wait, he wouldn't have been president in 1960. He was elected in and they said no. It was February 1961 by the time he went to go see it, and that's just such a big difference with the way movies are done today.
Yeah,
is that they put them out. And they were out for months and months.
No,
and
yeah,
they were just rake in money.
They were out forever. Like they would, have a theater, but they would contract a theater.
Right.
Like basically buy out a theater, put our movie in it for a year.
Well, now people they're doing that again. Disney's doing that now with their Marvel pictures and stuff. They literally will threaten not to let the movie theater run a movie if they don't put it on for a certain number of weeks on a certain number of screens. Yeah, it's a little bit back to the old days where there's like one big tentpole movie.
I don't mind that so much. I mean, I don't have the biggest home system or anything, but it's good enough for a lot of the crud that you see in the theaters. Yeah, that's true. And I'd rather reserve the theater for like a really big thing, like an epic thing.
That's true. I get a lot out of watching a movie at a theater with other people, though.
Yeah,
we were talking about this on the last episode, like going down to Rio Grande and they play old movies.
Sure.
And I just enjoy it 20 times more than I have.
But it's a different experience because of the Rio Grande Theater. This is like an old, 1920s era theater that we have here locally, listeners. So that that you're kind of crowded in. I mean, tiny little seats. Those are the seats from 1920.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wooden seats that you're sitting on somebody's lap practically. They weren't made for, let's say, the physiques of the 2000s.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I would have been a great big chubby beast in the 20s.
Right. And that versus the newest theater that we have in town has these big lazy boy recliners, and there's about 2 feet of room on either side of you because of these huge arm cushions, and your own private table. And
definitely.
All that stuff.
They charge more, and it is a better experience to go.
Well, it's an event, right? And actually, I think it was Spielberg and Lucas. I remember they were at USC, and they were kind of having like a forum for the students or something, and they were talking about this, and that's when Spielberg kind of revealed. This is not too long ago, maybe like 10 years ago. Spielberg revealed that he couldn't get anybody to buy Lincoln. And originally it was going to be an HBO movie before he finally got, a studio to buy and distribute the movie.
Huh. And it was already made at the time? Or?
Yeah, they're just trying to figure out what to do with it. And that's when they both kind of agreed that the days of traditional movie theaters, like what we think of maybe 80s, 90s, 70s, those are gone. It's going to go back to more like the 30s and 40s, which you had big, huge movies. It was a big event.
Right.
You had fewer of them, but they were like more event-like things. And they're going to become more expensive.
I feel like we talked about this on the podcast before, but we had a theater in New Orleans a couple blocks away from me called the Britannia Theater.
Yeah.
And they would just have one movie at a time. And I did not care what they were playing.
Right.
It was just such a great place to go see a movie.
Was it like an art house?
Yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't be an art house, but they would just pick the weirdest stuff. I remember we went and they were playing like the film adaptation of Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
Which I never would have gone to see. Right. But I went and I was like, all right, whatever. I like going to the
Was
movie
it like
theater.
a cheap movie?
I think it might have. I'm not remembering whether it was officially like second run, if you know, not second run, but like a little later in the run. But I don't think so. I think they would just pick one random movie and play it. I saw National Treasure there. Again, not something I would have seen in the movie theater otherwise, but it was just so nice. There's a balcony and like the curtains open. It's just an old timey theater. I just am a sucker for that. Like,
what's cool is a lot of those theaters. Like I remember seeing Rear Window. In the Castro Theater in San Francisco, and it was made for those really big epics like Spartacus. Those really long. I don't know what they shot it on, but those huge.
I think they said that it was on 70 millimeter, if that sounds right, and that Kubrick was not happy with that at first. It was too big.
I think he converted it or something like that.
He wanted something else. There was some.
But it's the same like Star Wars was shot on that, and
yeah.
Like I don't think Braveheart was, but like those.
Well, what's the one Lawrence of Arabia is on?
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia.
That's the really big one. That's the one. There's not a whole lot of movies were ever done that way.
But that's what the theaters were made for.
Yeah,
these huge screens.
Sure.
And you kind of need that for this movie. You've got those long sweeping shots, almost like a John Ford movie.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of big shots. I was mentally comparing it to Patton.
Yeah.
Because there's that bit where we were looking, we were like, there's not enough tanks.
Yeah.
It's like a tiny little, and there was a bit where there was a whole lot of horses and guys going across the field, and I was like, well, that looks pretty, that looks like a large, like slave army. Like and the bit where they do the final battle at the end, and the Romans are coming up the hill and marching and lining up and stuff. I was like, that. I mean, I have never actually participated in an ancient battle, but that looks right to me. That's not throwing me off. It looks like hundreds and hundreds of men. I'm kind of like casually counting like how many legions it looks like there are, and it looks like several legions worth of men. I'm like, okay, I can dig that.
I like the formations that they're doing.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's very
stuff.
cool. It's very cool.
Apparently, that was all real. I mean, those are like real formations.
Yeah, they got Spanish soldiers who trained and marched in formation and stuff. I don't know whether they would have been accurate, obviously, to Romans of that time. We're like just past the reforms that were made by Marius, where he started using cohorts and legions and things like that. So I can't really say. It's not a manipular legion, so they don't move the same way. But it was definitely, I was looking at it thinking the numbers seemed right, though. They always do this in movies, and this is maybe just part of what happens when you film. But the battle itself never looks right. It just devolves into a melee.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
just mayhem. Right.
The whole point of ancient battles is by the time that has happened, the battle's over.
Right.
Like everyone's lost control of what's happening, and it's just whoever has
at the end,
more guys is going to lose.
Well, and I thought the Romans kept it together. I mean, that was kind of the point, wasn't it?
Yeah, they did, except they reacted really stupidly to the rolling fire things. Like I was like, you don't get one over on the Roman army that way.
That was ridiculous.
That's like the old story about it, Gaugamela, when the Persians put scythes on the ends of their chariots and drove them at Alexander's troops. And that was terrifying to the people the Persians usually face. But like Alexander's troops just kind of were like, oh, and they stepped aside and let the chariots go by and then cut the Persians to ribbons. You know, that's what the Romans, they'd be like, oh, there's a flaming thing. Just step aside. And, but they're like running away from it and getting caught on fire. And
they couldn't seem to time their jumps very well either.
No, that was pretty embarrassing. Yeah,
that was, I think every kid who's ever jumped rope could time jumping one of those.
I think I probably could do it a little better.
Rolling bales of.
Unless it was bouncing.
Hay.
That would make it trickier. Which in real life, you think it would bounce as it came down the hill. It might make
Maybe. I was disappointed that people had to actually tow it. They were running in front of towing it.
Wouldn't you think of killing that guy? That's what I was thinking. The Romans were like looking at that guy, and I'm like, you got a spear.
I know. Well, they're looking at the guy, but then standing where the hay is.
Right.
And not where the guy is running
step
with no
aside,
weapon.
stab the guy with the thing. You know,
And,
the guys are running next to the guy towing the thing. I'm
also-
like, do your buddies a
Also,
favor and kill that.
You would think there's this thing called gravity, which would take. I mean, the whole point of it being round and on fire is rolling it at people, like down a hill.
It looked cool. I don't really know how effective of a weapon it would have been.
That was
Yeah,
ridiculous. I
it's
remember.
a little
I remember
silly,
thinking how ridiculous that was.
Yeah,
Anyway.
definitely. Also, you could see it coming. They were marching up. The Romans are marching up to those things. The guys are setting them on fire. I'm like, it's clear to me what's happening here.
Right.
Do you not see?
What could they be doing?
And all of a sudden, it catches on fire, and they go running away like they had no idea. They're
Right.
like, oh, I thought you guys were just in the middle of baling up some hay here on the bay.
Right.
So, I don't know. They threw their spears constantly, which was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Like a
Instead of
Roman
using them. Yeah.
legionnaire with a 6-foot-long spear does not chuck that.
Yeah, I don't
you
think-
have a pilum that you throw.
Right.
That you can throw a spear, but you do not throw the great big thing because then you don't have a weapon. Well, you have a gladius, if it comes down to it. But
Let's see. I
don't know how much of
appreciated.
that
I
we wanna-
appreciated that little kid getting squirted in the face with milk from a goat. I thought that was kind of
that's
interesting.
hilarious. Ooh, I could not stop laughing.
There's
a lot of
all
stuff
of the peasant scenes throughout it. I was the over the top
Yes.
romantic
Yes.
peasant crap.
Yes.
I was like, oh,
That's
this
the
is terrible.
stuff. I could be wrong. I haven't talked to Stanley Kubrick about that.
Okay, you might want to.
But I'm thinking the melodramatic stuff like
Yeah.
that and the goofy little lines and stuff. I'm guessing he had no control over that.
Well, that seemed like typical
That seemed
junky romantic
like movies from
Hollywood.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean that was
Absolutely. The kind of thing
you
would
know?
happen in a Disney movie.
Yeah, pretty
you know?
much.
Like
yeah.
like if you're watching one of those Davy Crockett movies, there'd be
yeah.
a little line. So a kid gets squirted in the face with
With-
by a goat. Ha, ha, ha,
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
So are you a Kubrick fan in general?
I do.
Which of,
yeah.
What do you like of his? What do you not like?
Oh man, Clockwork Orange is one of my favorite movies.
Right. I wasn't even thinking of
ever.
that off the top of my head. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That one is a fantastic one. I like The Shining. I do.
Okay. Sure.
Let's see. Full Metal Jacket obviously is up there. 2001. I appreciate 2001.
Yeah. We talked about this
yeah.
with Akira, I think.
Yeah.
2001's a little bit of a snooze fest.
Yeah.
There's some really incredible imagery.
There is.
Like
No, that's
stuff
why I said I
that's,
appreciate it and just the thought and the philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
And,
Some of that's due to the
seriously,
book, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really slow and long, and you got to give it props. I
Right.
kind of feel that way a little bit about The Shining.
Mm.
A little slow, but I get it. I've watched it several times.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it as
It
a
is.
work of
It
art.
is slow, but like the scenes where you can, it's slow because like he'll pan out as somebody's walking across this huge room all by
Right.
themselves to show
Right.
the isolation and everything else.
Sure.
Doctor Strangelove. I don't
I
know.
love that one. That
I
one
wouldn't-
that's the one is rewatchable for me. I've
I
watched
wouldn't
it
know
a
how,
bunch of
how to
times
rank
like
them
that.
because they're all so different.
They're very different.
know,
They're super different. And I don't even, there's probably some we're not thinking of off the top of our heads because I saw Barry Lyndon. I actually enjoyed that. But I enjoyed it the same way I enjoy like these other ones we're talking about, which is like, it's a beautiful work of art. Like, it's not something I want to sit down and,
Right.
if it's on HBO, I'm not going to stop and like watch the
Yeah.
rest of the movie. It's not like that
I would
compelling, but-
show my kids Doctor Strangelove.
Sure. Yeah.
might
I watched that one with my dad when I was pretty
I would
young.
wait a while to show a lot of the others.
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange, yeah. especially.
Alex liked The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining.
And then he saw Ready Player One has a whole sequence that's based on The Shining. And
Oh, is it? Okay.
He was like really impressed with himself
That's
for
cool.
getting the reference.
Yeah.
Like he was pretty happy. So,
Yeah, it's a lot different than the book.
shall we drink?
We shall. What are we drinking?
You can keep talking about it.
Okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but
But yeah, no, I think you're right about that. So where would you say, like, watching the movie, watching Spartacus, did you see a Kubrick thumbprint anywhere on it?
the audacity of the picture in general, the size of what's going on, and the vision that he usually has of each film. Like each film is like the way you'd go about writing a novel, like well researched and just understands the period and like, you know, because that's what you talk about is like all those interiors of the Roman buildings and stuff like that. Like everything just looks amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it really puts you where you are, because he just has a holistic vision for the thing that comes together. That's what I see. I don't know enough technical film craft to be able to say a lot about shots and about what sort of film they're using and things like that. But in terms of the scope of the movie, when they get away from the melodramatic stuff, which was kind of, I think drags the movie down a little bit. There's just a vision to it that's really good.
Makes
and,
it longer too.
and the
3.5
sort
hours.
of
They could have cut out.
Peter Ustinov's like wit, the banter, you know,
right.
it reminds me of Dr. Strangelove especially.
right.
It has that sort of
Well, Gracchus too.
Yeah.
You know, his dialogue
Absolutely.
was fantastic. You know,
Yeah.
and I think I understand the historical part,
Mm-hmm.
the problem that it's problematic, but they needed somebody that represented a republic, and it was a republic versus empire and dictatorship and stuff. And so
Yeah, it's a little too, I guess, early for Cicero. Cicero could have filled the role.
Yeah.
Although, no, that's the problem. Cicero's the other side.
That's right,
Cicero's the
yeah.
optimates, right? So that wouldn't make sense.
so they needed somebody that.
So
would,
I get
that
it.
would- yeah.
It was a good character to have in
And
there.
I think
So-
there was a lot of symbolism for what was going on at the time. I mean, the guy who wrote the book, Howard Fast. So Howard Fast
Okay.
wrote this book, I think, in prison, and I think he was one of the ones that was caught up in McCarthyism, and he was imprisoned for not naming names or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you really see those themes in the movie? I'm trying to remember,
Well, I think it was.
like freedom of speech and.
Yeah, I mean, it was the people uprising, rising up against what they saw as a oppressive government or oppressive regime, right?
I mean, I
Kept
don't
him
think it's deniable. I mean, with slavery on that kind of scale, I
Yeah.
don't think there's any denying that.
symbolically kept him in bondage, I think, and used him. And I think
Yeah.
matter of fact, John Wayne boycotted the movie, called it un-American, called it communist.
Just because Trumbo was involved.
Communist propaganda. No, I think the symbolism.
Okay, so there's
I think-
there's definitely an element of communist
Yeah.
propaganda. The People's Army and stuff
Right.
like that is like 100%
Right.
out of like Castro's book and Che Guevara and all those people like that.
Right.
But at that time, that probably seemed a lot more innocent, right? 1960, it's before Vietnam really kicks off.
Well, I think he wrote in the 50s though, and
Yeah.
no, but I mean, this is like right in the middle of McCarthyism. I mean,
Yeah.
this is written as a
No, I mean, we're not
response to that.
getting ourselves quite so involved in these people's wars at the time.
Yeah.
It's not quite so.
No.
It doesn't look quite as charming.
But
by 1970,
no,
like-
but there was definitely a Red Scare. This is during the
Yeah.
Red Scare.
Yeah,
right.
definitely,
And so
definitely.
people kind of like now we see we've talked about this before. You see people see racism and everything. Back then they saw communism and everything, and it was the same response. It's like go censor it, and
Right.
so that's what they did.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about how guys like Trumbo
Mm-hmm.
and anybody who was involved with the blacklist and stuff like that are considered, I would think, by people on the left to be like heroes.
Yes.
And I kind of respect that. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they were denied the right to freedom of conscience. They weren't allowed to write things. I don't agree with necessarily all the content of what they were writing, obviously.
Sure.
But I would have supported their right to do it. And then I'm like, but then you're turning around and doing that to people that disagree with you and using prior restraint on their speech. And how do you not see that that's a flip side of it? Or do you just care that it's your team?
I think
You don't have any principles.
Kind of
You're
seems
just
like what it comes down to.
It kind of seems to me like it's just if it's my team, then I'm
Yeah,
going
I don't care.
If it's your team that's saying things, I'm going to
Yeah.
make it illegal and I'm going to take your job
Right.
away. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's
Yeah.
Trumbo, who's a communist,
Right.
then he's a terrible put upon hero.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm like, I kind of think you need to pick a principle there that you're
Right.
going to go by. So that was kind
Pick
of
a principle, not a team, right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't care less about these teams. I was thinking about how annoyed I am with Biden.
Well, and you're right because
with Afghanistan.
so here's like John Wayne saying that movie is un-American. We need to censor it,
right,
which is un-American,
exactly,
right? And
exactly.
they shouldn't be allowed to write this stuff because it's un-American. But let's not let them write it, which is un-American, right? It's like this terrible circular logic that kind of goes nowhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you kind of have to figure that what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Absolutely.
If you're going to protect people's right to speak, you need to protect people's right to speak. I mean, obviously there are exceptions. I'm not I've had so many conversations with friends about free speech recently. I don't believe in absolute right to freedom of speech, but I'm kind of where Oliver Wendell Holmes and people like that are like. It has to be super, super dangerous what you're saying, like literally leading people to kill somebody or something. You don't have the right while someone's holding a gun to someone else's head to say, shoot that guy. That's not free speech. That's a command to kill. It's different. And there's a line that's difficult to figure out, but it's, as I recall, it's about prior restraint. It's about saying certain subjects are against the law to talk about. I do not believe in that. I cannot think of an exception.
Yeah.
That somebody should not be allowed to say. I mean, like, for instance, in Europe, it's illegal to deny that the Holocaust happened.
Right.
I think you're a flaming a-hole if you say that.
Yes.
But you should be able to say dumb things. You
Yeah.
know, it's just I don't really see why.
Well,
it's a more present danger in Europe, but
what's interesting is right now the current context in which we're talking about, and we're not really talking about it, but we are talking about it.
Sort of.
Is things like censorship from these private companies like YouTube and Facebook and Twitter.
Right.
And we say, well, some people justify it by saying, well, they're private companies, so they have a right to do that on their platforms or whatever. However, these theaters were private companies.
That's exactly right.
And
exactly right.
these
studios. It's actually really good.
These studios were private companies.
It's a really good model. Yeah,
so
exactly. I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah, the studio is a private company, and they're denying someone's right to work. They're not killing anyone. They're just saying you can't work for us if you say these kinds of things.
And theaters wouldn't show the movies. And
I kind of think that behavior is legal on part of the studios.
But it's not. It's still not right, though.
It's not right. It's bad behavior, but it's not illegal. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
But anyway, let's have a drink.
This isn't the
because
platform
it's getting
for that.
too serious. This is what happens when you don't drink on this podcast.
Right. Wine over ice.
We're doing wine over ice because there's no choice. I got home. I got turned off of I-10 and had to drive up through Anthony and Mesquite. It took me like 45 minutes to get there. And when I got home, this just wasn't chilled. So that's what we've got. We got unchilled wine.
In the words
we're going full Karen, and we're drinking wine with ice.
How do you say it? What did Spartacus say? What's the best wine in the world?
The one that you have at home.
The one that you have at home.
That's right. Well, unfortunately, in this case, it wasn't at home in my fridge, so it's not that good. But anyway, it's nothing special. It's just a bottle of Moscato. I figured we're looking for something sweet and white. And I don't know. I didn't get a chance to check the ABV on this.
Well, we did the resin wine already. So
we did the resin wine, which is a little more legitimately Greek. And I think most Roman wine would have been essentially Greek. But
cheers.
Cheers.
Oh,
we should have learned a Roman cheers. Because this is pure Rome. Marcus Aurelius was writing in Greek, doing Greek philosophy, although the Stoicism, I guess. But anyway, there was definitely a little more hybrid Roman Greek there. Yeah. This is all Roman. So,
well, he wanted to be Greek. I mean, it was
I think so. I was going to say that. I didn't want to throw him under the bus, but I think he would have rather been Greek than Roman. Spartacus and all the characters in this, especially in Republican Rome, I think they're real Romans. I think the Republican Romans are the real Romans. I think when the empire comes, I think it gets depressing. I mean, honestly, that's something that I've always been fascinated with ancient Rome, sort of like thought it was super cool when I was a kid and stuff like that. This aspect of this film, which is 100% correct and an accurate depiction of that society, it was a terrible slave society.
Yes.
It was a nightmare for a lot of people. Something like 20 or 30% of the people living in the Roman Empire would have been slaves, and it wouldn't matter what percentage anyway, but it was millions of people.
And the Romans were terrible to other people. I mean, they treated them like nothing.
Yeah, the morality of people in those days, I think it's fascinating. I think we end up being fascinated by it because we read these accounts of these noble people, these elite people, and it's great writing and it's great speaking. The political stuff is brilliant. The legal stuff is brilliant. The battles are fascinating and stuff like that. But boy, like the undercurrent of what's going on in their society is just nothing you'd ever want anything to do with.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a person, we think of it, like you learn when you're a kid. There's the Roman Empire. It falls in 476 AD, and then there's the Dark Ages, and then there's the Middle Ages, and it's terrible because the Middle Ages. Like, I think you probably would have been better off living almost at any time after the fall of Roman Empire as a normal person. Yeah. I just don't know what it would have brought you. Huge chance you're a slave, right? Huge chance that you die in one of these myriad wars. The
problem, I think, with just human civilization is once the Roman Empire goes along, you get other slave-holding societies. The Middle East, Asia.
I don't think it's anything
many
new.
parts of Africa. No, slavery.
I don't think it's. I think it's just a scale that's.
All I'm saying is when you get somebody who's strong and has a lot of weapons and can muster an army, that person is going to have slaves. That's just sort of what happens in.
It's almost making me want to look into the subject. It's really kind of a fascinating subject because if you think about it, Egypt is famous for slavery, right? A lot of us grew up learning that slaves built the pyramids, which is not true.
Right. True.
I don't think Egypt was particularly characterized by slavery, not like Rome, and not until the Romans and the Greeks came. I don't think ancient Egypt is a place where there's a whole lot of slavery going on. It did exist, but it's not in these kinds of numbers. And part of that is because so much wealth flooded into Rome after it expanded.
I was going to say I don't know if any
and a lot of that wealth was slaves.
And that might be the thing is like the scale that Rome had, because everybody that they would conquer, they'd either make them slaves, or if you're lucky, they would make you part of Rome. That came later, but
yeah, nobody waged war so successfully for such a long time as, let's say, from about 300 BC to about the time of Augustus. I mean, the Romans were just, I mean, they didn't even have control of how much they were conquering. It was like one guy would conquer, and you'd be like, "What do we do now?" Like Julius Caesar just came back with France and left it on the doorstep. Like, what do we do with that? So it was one guy died out in Asia Minor and just left his kingdom to Rome. And Rome suddenly has this kingdom and tons of money and lots of people. And it's like, what do you do? There's this senatorial class that controls all the wealth. Yeah. They own everything. They take even more land. It really was a problematic society in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways.
Not a good place to live for most people, but it still just holds a fascination for me. I don't know why I never saw this movie before. I don't know what it is. I think some of these slow epics, they like drove me crazy when I was a kid. My dad would put them on. I watched The Vikings with Kirk Douglas when I was a kid. And it's like, Vikings. I love Vikings. Vikings are awesome. That movie bored me to tears.
That was pretty bad.
You know, like there's the one about Genghis Khan. There's just a lot of these movies that are really hard to watch when you're a kid. Yeah. Like they just go on and on.
They're
I think
epics.
I just dreaded this.
I mean, they're epics. You know?
Yeah, they're epics, you know.
All right, so let's get to the awkward scene because we got to get to the awkward scene.
Okay.
Cut out of the movie.
I was saving it for my biggest surprise, actually. We can do biggest surprise now if you want.
Well, if you're saving it, then let's.
Biggest surprise doesn't have to be at the end. We can talk about biggest surprise.
Your biggest surprise.
My biggest surprise of the entire film, by the way, is the fact that I didn't really see anything particularly scandalous going on in that. It really was super brief. I don't know if I looked away for a second.
Okay.
It was a metaphorical discussion.
Yes.
The guy's his slave, and he's trying to seduce the slave. Yes. And I was like, I don't want to like suggest this, but you don't actually have to do that. Like, you don't really have to convince him. It's kind of benign as far as this. I really didn't. Obviously, by 1960
I was going to say,
standards,
put yourself in 1960s.
You know, but I'm considering a lot of the things I've seen today, it really just was like, if someone hadn't told me what was going on in that
that's
scene,
what you have to do is you have to remove yourself from today and put yourself in 1960. You know, you just seen High Noon.
But I felt like it was left up to interpretation.
Earlier in the day, you were watching Gunsmoke. Yeah. Later, you and the boys are going to listen to the Yankees game on the radio and have a beer.
Wouldn't you just look at your son and be like, oh, it's just a non sequitur what he's talking about? What's he talking about? Snails? I don't know.
Well, I think it just I don't know. I think it was just too much for society back then, man.
I guess so.
You know?
It just really was a non-factor. I just really was not impressed.
Oyster?
I was like stealing myself. I was like,
do you eat oysters? Yes, I eat oysters, master.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy oysters? Yes, I enjoy oysters. Do you eat snails? No, I do not, master. Oh, I eat oysters and snails.
Right.
It's like, okay. That's good for you. And it's any wonder that he leaves like 5 minutes later. He's like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, that was the only thing that really would tip you off in something. I mean, I think they're kind of putting...
So the biggest shock was that it wasn't that big of a deal to you.
Nah, it really wasn't. I was expecting something uncomfortable to watch, and I was just kind of like, oh, they're just kind of talking about it in metaphors and...
But it was kind of weird. I mean, come on.
There's more bathhouse scenes than that, you know, and they're not particularly homoerotic at all. They're just kind of guys.
But they're not trying to get on with each other. I mean, you know.
I felt like there was a subtext between Caesar and Crassus, maybe a little bit. There's a little bit of like, at least as much as there was in that other scene. I really was not.
I didn't see that one.
I was not impressed by
the other one.
The degree of gayness that I was expecting was much higher, and I don't really. Very inoffensive, I would think, for anybody.
Tell me, Billy, do you like gladiator films?
Right.
Let's see. My biggest surprise was probably when I went on a deep dive about Kirk Douglas and Tony Curtis.
Okay.
Both very Jewish actors.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, I think Tony Curtis is Belarusian. Kirk Douglas was Russian. Jew. Both, I think, grew up. I think they're both from the Bronx. You know,
I was aware Kirk Douglas was Jewish. For some reason, I always thought Tony Curtis was Italian.
No, I know, right?
I just kind of associate him with that kind of crew,
right? But. And let's see, both served in World War II.
Sure.
Both in the Navy.
Okay.
One was a submariner. I believe that was Tony Curtis. Was in a submarine.
Kirk Douglas was in a submarine for 20,000 leagues, as we've discussed.
right, or 10,000 leagues.
Had to kill a what do you call it? An octopus with a harpoon.
Right. But actually, Kirk Douglas was a submarine killer. He was he was like the weapons, navigator, submarine killer guy.
Very cool.
I mean, really cool kind of histories that paralleled each other quite a bit. Kirk Douglas was an officer because he'd gone to college by that time. Tony Curtis a little bit younger, so he hadn't.
Let me say this. This is an additional surprise, which actually was kind of surprised by when I watched the movie. He loses his first fight, Spartacus.
Yeah.
He has that duel to the death against
Right.
the African guy, and he
Right.
like loses the fight. I was like,
Okay, so that was supposed to be
wow.
symbolic. I think Trumbo wrote that. That was supposed to be symbolic for the civil rights movement
I think
that was
so,
going on
yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And
Which is pretty cool. And I actually, that's one thing. So, okay, we've been, commenting negatively on Roman society, but racism as understood by modern Americans was not a thing.
right.
I mean, yes, a Roman had opinions about Greeks and Ethiopians and people from Cilicia and all different nations, but in terms of like thinking anything different about people of African descent, like people with dark skin from Africa, they did not have negative opinions about them. They were just one of the kinds of people you could be. It's interesting about the ancient world because I think that our attitude is always like, as you go farther back in time, people's attitudes are just more prehistoric versions of ours. And the point I'm trying to make is their beliefs were just so different than ours. They just weren't like ours.
I think so, but I think though, I mean, they have proven that Homo sapiens massacred Neanderthals and other hominoids.
My DNA would argue against that, though.
And I think it's because they were different and they're inferior and their cave paintings weren't as good as ours or whatever, or they're threatening. They're somehow threatening.
I think they were mostly threatening.
Really, that's what it comes down to, is we're threatened by them.
So where were we? We were talking about...
Okay, so my shock, my biggest shock was Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtis, Parallel Lives.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
And it was nothing like, there are a lot of actors and actresses, well, actors especially, in that age that were Jewish, that you had no idea they were Jewish because they changed their names.
Sure.
I've
heard stories about Kirk Douglas like working up in the Borscht Belt, stuff like that. I mean, it couldn't have been the Borscht Belt for the story to make sense, so backtrack a little bit. But anyway, working at like resorts and things like that as a waiter when he was coming up, like before he was an actor, and going out of his way to seduce famously anti-Semitic women.
Oh, really?
And then let them know that he was Jewish.
That he was Jewish, yeah.
Like at some point in their dalliance. So.
But so it's is it surprising? It's not. I don't know if it's surprising or not. It was really interesting to look at their backstory, see where they came from. Mm-hmm. So that's probably my biggest shock is just the backstory of Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtis. The oysters and snails, not so much of a shock to me.
Yeah, that was pretty much what you expected.
Yeah, well, it was. Well, I had seen Clueless, obviously. So
I mentioned this before, but it really struck me how much like Braveheart this movie was. Like I saw Braveheart a long time ago. It's funny how parallel it is, and the weird thing is that the story of William Wallace is pretty accurately depicted in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's not. It does the thread of what happened in his life, but it's the same as what happens to Spartacus. It's like he ends up sort of accidentally in charge of an army and like wins some battles and then loses and is like tortured to death in front of everybody. It's like the same thing happens. And it reminded me, I was on a bus going into Scotland, and there was this great big, somebody had painted on the rocks, like Independence Now for Scotland. And this guy I was with was like, wait, they're not independent? And I was like, no, it's part of the United Kingdom. And he was like, well, what the heck was Braveheart all about? And I was like, as it turns out, not much in the long run. Like they didn't end up being
William the Bruce or no?
Robert the Bruce. Yeah, but they were independent for a couple hundred years after.
Which, by the way, does the Bruce mean something? Is being a Bruce something? Is that like you're a jerk? You're
I don't
macho?
think so. I don't think so. I think it's a family name.
Oh, the
Don't
Bruce.
quote me on that though. I think I looked it up once and no, it doesn't.
Okay,
it
so I want to be
mean
Clint
something.
Lanier.
But,
Yeah, no, there are a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
I can definitely see
Robin
that.
Hood, Prince of Thieves, same thing.
But
A
I
very
think-
similar like story.
I think the story, you might remember this. There was an article, I think it was a Times article or maybe New Yorker, within the last couple of decades that claimed there were really only 6 stories, like 6 stories out there, and the writer of this article lists like those 6 stories, like the arc that each of them takes. Protagonist, this happens to him, then this happens, and then this happens.
Sure.
Or that it's like all these variations, but only like 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just started listing every movie, every book, every play that you've ever seen, and they all line up with that. So it's kind of like music. Music's kind of the same way. There are only so many
like
ways.
enough stories. I feel like you could probably condense things down to a small number. It seems infinite when you think of it, right? It's just like, oh no, there's a million.
Yeah.
And if you think about it,
But they've got to go one direction or another.
Right.
Right. I mean, you've got people like Quentin Tarantino, which kind of tries to break those a little bit. But I think, you get like Braveheart, and you get Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and you get some of these martyr hero movies, like tragedy, the tragic movies.
The Patriot is the same story.
Patriot, same story.
There's a whole bunch like this.
Yeah, and so you've got this kind of tragic hero who he's an anti-hero in many forms because he's like
Spartacus isn't. That's one of the complaints about the movie I saw was that he has like no flaws. Speaking of the bath scenes, I was really happy everyone was wearing a toga. Like my first thought, I was watching, like they were getting out of the tub, and I was like, "Why is he putting on a toga at the bath?" And I was like, "Well, thank you for that, though. I really don't need to see that's
they definitely would have showed that." However, Gene Simmons in the pond, like she's swimming.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh boy,"
yeah,
because they got really close to
she's definitely in a state of undress. Yeah,
yeah.
The other thing I was really happy about was he asked Tony Curtis to sing. He asked Antonius to sing, and then he just starts talking. I was like, "Oh, thank God! I thought he was going to sing."
Right, break out his lute.
It's like that moment in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where the guy starts to sing and he cuts him off. He's like, "No singing, no singing." I was like, "Thank you."
You know what else? Parallel? What? The baby. At the end of Braveheart, she says that she's pregnant with William Wallace's child.
Okay.
And at the end of Spartacus, she has the child and shows it to him. And he's going to be raised free and stuff.
It must have been. That's the weird thing is it seems like they just ripped off the movie Spartacus to make Braveheart. I even think Mel Gibson is like doing a Kirk Douglas impression.
I think he kind of does that. I still can't find out what he's in. He was in too many things.
Laurence Olivier, yeah.
He was just in everything.
Yeah, he's just famous.
But it's kind of like one of those like Rudolph Valentino. For some reason, after watching this and I was reading up on everybody, I was like, Laurence Olivier, like, why the heck is he so famous? And I mean,
I think he won Academy Awards for his Shakespeare stuff.
Yeah, like Shakespearean type of stuff.
I actually kind of want to go watch that.
Then I started wondering about like, why was Rudolph Valentino so famous?
Yeah,
and
it's nothing we watched today. I
looked him up. It was all 20s, like The Sheik. I think it was like a silent movie he was in.
But then as soon as the talkies came, he was done.
But he was supposed to be like so good looking, so I showed him to my 14-year-old daughter who should have a taste for the aesthetic, and she's like, ugh. Who's that?
I mean, that's 100 years ago.
Yeah,
things have
She's
changed.
like, he doesn't even have black, fingernail polish.
So we went to, I went to Ford's Theater, and the National Park Service gives out these little like baseball card type things of like all the characters involved with the Lincoln assassination. And I was like flipping through, and there's this one guy who was one of the bad guys in the assassination, and I was looking at him, I was like, this guy looks like a male model from like now. And I was like, is this one of the? And the park ranger was a lady. She was like, oh, he's a dish, isn't he? I was like, oh, this one looks wrong. Like I'm flipping through, it's all these Civil War looking people.
Was he smoldering? Is that what it was?
I don't know how to describe it, but it just looked wrong.
Blue steel.
He was clean shaven, was part of it, and just had these. He just looked like blue steel, exactly like one of those guys. Right. It was very striking. Like even for a guy, I was like, wait, what is going on here? Like funny. There's a bit at the end where everybody's saying, I'm Spartacus. Oh, we should talk about that because I had questions about that. But there's one of the guys that yells, and I was like, was that Frank Drebin's partner from Naked Gun? And because it looked exactly like him, and I looked at the Wikipedia page, and it was like, many people believe this is the first appearance of actor George Kennedy, but it's actually a completely different guy. Because I was like, I couldn't figure out, why would he let them do that? Like, it's like 5,000 people get crucified instead of just you, and then you get crucified anyway. Why would you? It didn't seem very heroic. It just seems super dumb.
Well, I think
to have all those people die.
Remember that he told them better to die free than to live as a slave.
Yeah.
So all these guys are dying free. Like why
crucified though? I think I'd rather be a slave. That's bad news, man.
They crucified, if I remember correctly, 6,000 people.
Something like that. Yeah.
From there all the way to Rome.
Yeah.
Like along both sides.
Almost
along
all the
road.
way to Brundusium to Rome, which is like 200 miles or something.
And that was real. That really happened.
Yeah.
This dude crucified 6,000 people.
That is
6,000 guys. I mean,
and I don't actually know what the historical source is for Spartacus. Now that I think of it. I think it gets mentioned
it's a few.
in Cicero. I think some of Cicero's works he's talking about.
I think it's a few. I think it's a few different. It's kind of like Marcus Aurelius. They had to piece it together from.
It's amazing how
references.
Little we have. Right? Like
everything
you know about ancient Rome, it's always like you realize there's like two sources that talk about this thing,
right.
and it's like they're completely different. So you're like, well,
it's kind of the same with a lot of that Egypt and.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Athens, definitely.
Did this actually like change your mind about gladiator movies?
Did it change? I love Gladiator. Like I mean, it's not like something I go back and watch a bunch of times, but I thought Rome is cool.
Are there any parallels between the message, like the symbolism or the message that the two movies have? It seems like there is.
There is in terms of, and I think it's kind of not correct in Gladiator, but there's a lot of wanting to go back to Republican Rome and give power to the people.
Right.
That story is in both of these movies.
Right.
I don't know how much of an anachronism it is by the time of Commodus, which is like, what, 200 AD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be the common theme, I would think, would be
Yeah.
getting the power back to the people. And that's what I was saying about it being this really kind of horrible society is my take on it, my gut is always, it's such tragedy, like the fall of the Republic and like the beginning of the Empire. But it's just like that life was a nightmare for almost everyone. Who cares?
Even they were terrible. I mean, we talked about this before about like Aristotle. Aristotle was preaching virtue and all this other stuff, but it was virtue that was exclusive to Athenians, right? I mean, it was
because he's not even really an Athenian, but
it was not virtue for anybody that they conquered. It wasn't virtue for the slaves. It wasn't virtue.
No, he believed in slaves wholeheartedly.
Exactly.
Aristotle argued in favor of slavery.
He was talking about virtue, that we all share this virtue. Well, no, we don't all share this virtue.
What he means is, people, certain men of a certain class.
That's right.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's always,
it's kind of the same thing,
I mean, some of these famous Greek people we know, like Plutarch and stuff like that, they were slaves. They were Greek slaves because Greece was conquered in the 2nd century, and a whole lot of Greeks came. I think Antoninus is supposed to be Greek. I think it's about that time.
Okay.
You think?
I think so.
Make this decision?
I think so.
So it's up to you. This was my
it
choice.
is up to me.
Now, I thought it'd be a little more interesting because both of us I'm coming to it fresh.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't come into it like biased and like already thinking it was a classic.
I had seen it, but God, I saw it so long ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I figured. So I sort of think, you'll get the deciding vote, but I have more to say about whether it's a classic because I didn't come in like, oh, this is my favorite movie.
Sure.
I just wanted to fill in this gap in my film education. So
I guess, I really need to like standardize how I figure it out because I got to admit, I'm really torn. This didn't win an Academy Award for like Best Picture or anything that year. I can't remember what did.
Do you know this is the only film where one of the actors in a Kubrick movie won a Best Actor? Or it was Best Supporting. Best Supporting.
Yeah, that's
but
interesting.
It's the only time
it's the only one,
all those films. Like Vincent D'Onofrio didn't win Best Supporting
Full Metal Jacket.
For Full Metal Jacket.
That's right.
How does that not happen?
And
5 years later in his career, he would have won. But
what's his name in Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, right. Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could see why it would have been like kind of scandalous. I don't know what they were up against also, but
yeah, I don't know either.
Who was as good of a performer that year as Malcolm McDowell was in that movie? Maybe somebody. I might have been Sidney Poitier.
No.
For Guess Who's Coming
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, yeah, maybe.
Or maybe it was even Spencer Tracy for Guess Who's Coming. I think a whole bunch of people got nominated because that's pretty good.
So, I mean, you got that.
Warren Beatty for Bonnie and Clyde. That actually was a big year. I think it's 67, if I remember right.
Well, 60, though. I wonder what got...
No, 67 for Clockwork Orange.
But I wonder what got Best Picture in 60 this year.
Oh.
It was critical acclaim. Mm-hmm. It's been kind of in the middle on with critics from what I've read. Like, they're like 80s, 70s, 80s, but they're not like 100% or something like that. For the time, though, I mean, it was kind of like smashing, some ceilings that were kind of artificially created. So like the blacklisting was gone because of this movie.
That's a big cultural moment.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's a lot of symbolism for Civil Rights Act, for for the whole kind of communist McCarthyism, anti-McCarthyism stuff going on at the time. So that's really important.
That's one thing. If you're John Wayne and you're looking at this picture, which is about a slave-holding society, and you're seeing a metaphor for like
communism
and stuff like that, you might want to ask yourself some questions.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why am I identifying with the slaveholders in this
with
movie?
the Romans,
Now, I think it would be a better metaphor, and I'd be much more sympathetic to it if it was depicted as like the colonialism. Like the way in 1960 you got almost none of these countries that became independent during the 60s were independent yet at the time of 1960. These independence struggles against colonialism would have been happening at that time.
Yeah, well, no, Franco,
in terms of communism within the United States, I think it's a pretty ridiculous metaphor. Yeah. Nobody in the United States
French
is downtrodden.
Indochina at the time was exploding.
I think that's how
50s.
We got so screwed up in Vietnam is because we ended up on the side of the colonialists.
Right.
We had no business there. We didn't want to be colonialists, but that's how they saw us.
Yeah.
Which is pretty understandable, frankly.
True.
But that's a better metaphor.
Yeah.
And if you're on that side and you're John Wayne, you should ask yourself some questions. So.
Like you said, I mean, we always look at what's its legacy, right?
Right.
And look at all the movies that this thing influenced.
Right.
We talk about Clueless, but we also talk about Braveheart, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Airplane.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But we could also talk about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I mean, there's all these things that somehow can trace their roots back, or at least one, nod
Or reference it
back to Spartacus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Laurence Olivier, Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtin, Stanley Kubrick, all this stuff. So, and I'm on the fence, but I'll say, yeah, it's a classic. I'm going to toast this classic.
Okay.
I'm
on the fence as well.
Yeah.
The melodramatic stuff,
Yeah.
that almost a lot of impressive spectacle going on.
Almost ruins it. The melodramatic stuff.
It really drags it down.
But you know what actually does really make up for it, though? I think the stuff with Gracchus, the politics of Rome.
Yeah. And not even just
and
those
the
British guys just chewing up the scenery.
But the dialogue.
Yeah, they're
the
great.
dialogue,
Yeah,
it was
are great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna toast it.
All right. Let's do it. Let's toast this classic.
Hold it at the stem so we can get a sound.
All right. Get some more resonance.
Cheers. There we go.
Not bad.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We have toasted this classic.
I'd like the heirs of Stanley Kubrick to know that this movie has survived the gauntlet
right.
that is toasting the classic.
It's a signed, sealed, and delivered. You can go out and watch it yourself and take our word for it. Next on Toasting the Classics, we are going to examine the Beatles.
Ah, okay.
And we are going to look at their seminal hit. The record that now they were already a thing. The Beatles were the Beatles.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But this put them over the top. This took them from celebrity, from genius to, I don't know what you would even call it, to another plane, another realm of existence. And that's Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Just to preserve the drama, I'm going to say I think it's crap.
Okay.
So we're gonna listen to Sgt. Pepper's
He is
Lonely
the
Hearts
Eggman,
Club
ladies and
Band,
gentlemen.
and we're gonna talk about that next time.
That's right. So join us next time on another episode.
And I think we'll be we'll be doing heroin.
Yes.
For the next episode.
Hashish.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, hashish,
I don't know what they were doing, but they were doing something.
It had to be like old school.
Right.
We have to actually go to Istanbul to get it and come back.
There you go.
So
not end up in a Turkish prison.
Hopefully not. That'll be a different move we can do.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next time on
Toasting the Classics. Peace out.
That's it for episode 22 of Toasting the Classics. For those playing along at home, you'll need cognac, creme de cacao, and fresh cream for next week. We'll be drinking Brandy Alexander's while talking about the 1967 Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. If you'd like to get in touch, please send us an email at toastingtheclassics@gmail.com. Send us show ideas, comments, complaints, and let us know whether you like movies about gladiators. Check out my blog at theattractivenuisance.com and follow us on Twitter at @ractivenuisance. Our music was written by Michelle McArthur. See you next time on Toasting the Classics.